Welcome to the Christmas season. And whether you're a bah humbug or not, it's here. We're gonna journey together as part of a teaching series. All the pastors pitching in over this December and into the first week of January. Journey on our theme for the campus. At the beginning of the year, we pastors and administrators chat about a theme for the year. And that theme is exactly this: you will be found. So that's the theme for the year. So we've plugged it into our mid-year teaching series. Hey, as soon as we're done today, though, no matter what time we end, there is a fellowship meal. I've got my olives to invite you and my wife. I guess I should have found out what she made, but she made a dish that you're invited to as well. So if it's just us, me, you, and that's fine. We'll have enough. You will be found. Pick this line up. It actually started as a Broadway musical. Well, a number in a Broadway musical called Dear Evan Hansen, written by songwriters Pascal and Paul. It opened in just 1 year ago, December of 2016. It was nominated for 9 Tony Awards, won 7 of them, including Best Musical. In that Broadway musical, Dear Evan Hansen, is a number called You Will Be Found, sung by the lead actor, Ben Platt, won people's hearts and their minds. Time Magazine, in reflecting on this musical, says this heart-scorching musical about the struggle to connect feels like a hallmark of this particular moment in history. Did you hear that? This heart-scorching musical about the struggle to connect feels like a hallmark of this particular moment in history. This particular moment in history, I will remind you, has more social media connectors than any time previously. We have more opportunities, more options, more venues for connecting than any time in the past. And Time Magazine steps out and says, by the way, the hallmark of this particular moment in history is a struggle to connect. And I bet in our heart of hearts, we would agree. Wow, yeah, it does seem like connecting. With all the options we have, connecting is a struggle. So I go on and I'm listening, right? Of course, normal functioning human being today, I go onto YouTube, listen to this musical number, You Will Be Found. And I'm reading the comments below. Scroll down, get to the comments, and I just have to copy and paste them as one after another. They're relentless and they're repetitive, but they're powerful. Let me just read them for you. Quoting now a comment from a YouTube viewer: as someone who has dealt and is dealing with depression and has horrible anxiety, this song makes me break down and cry. This was something I needed to hear. God bless this musical. Another one: I can't listen to this song in public or else I'll start sobbing uncontrollably. All caps, similar to what I'm doing right now. Another one: I was found and then I fell to another level. I'm only connected to that world above by a thin string. I'm lost now, but I want to be found again. Another: I know someone who really needed to hear this today. It was me. Thank you. And finally another. And these are not selected. These are just one after another. I cried like a baby when I heard this for the first time. What are they talking about? What are they raving about? What really touched them? I printed off the lyrics for you. Have you ever felt like nobody was there? Have you ever felt forgotten in the middle of nowhere? Have you ever felt you could despair, like you could fall and no one would hear? Well, let that lonely feeling wash away. Maybe there's a reason to believe you'll be okay, because when you don't feel strong enough to stand, you can reach out your hand, and someone will come running, and I know they'll take you home, even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, and then comes the line, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, because you'll reach up and you'll rise again. Lift your head and look around. You will be found. You will be found. You will be found. The word is that there are thousands. Looking at a couple of studies this week, didn't find a study for the U.S., but 4.7 million citizens of the U.K., those are the Brits, 4.7 million citizens in the U.K. identify themselves as needing to be found by someone. Someone find me. I'm lost. Millions then. We could say millions today on planet Earth are saying, I just want to be found by someone that cares, someone that's looking for me. And YouTube viewers are saying the same thing. I'm lost. I'm crying. I need to be found. I'm struggling with depression. I have horrible anxiety. I need someone to find me. So let's not pretend, church, in our suits and our dresses that we're okay. Somebody else. Because it happens, I would wager, in the church as well. But it's nothing new. Come on. Pascal and Paul, you musicians, you lyric writers of this song. It's not something new. This Broadway musical last year didn't introduce something new. I just did a little reminiscing in my own mind and went back to a story written in 1843. This was by the Danish poet Hans Christian Andersen. He initially titled it the something swan. He was wrestling with the term swan, but then he didn't want to give it away. So then he said, really, let's just call it the ugly duckling. You remember the story of the ugly duckling? A Danish poet just wrote this thing out, and now everyone's heard about it. The tale begins, a mother duck's eggs hatch. One of the little birds is perceived by the other birds and animals on the farm as kind of homely. Well, in fact, it is. It's a homely little creature and suffers verbal and physical abuse from the rest of the animals. This little homely creature wanders sadly from the barnyard, goes to live with wild ducks and geese until hunters show up and take care of some of those and scares off this little creature. He finds a home with an old woman, but her cat and her hen tease him and taunt him mercifully until he runs away. The ugly duckling sees a flock of migrating wild swans, and he's delighted and excited. He says, "What beautiful creatures, if only I could be like one of them." Winter arrives, the farmer finds the near frozen little duckling to the house. He spends a miserable winter alone, and finally takes off again, hiding, searching. When spring arrives, a flock of these wild swans descend on the now thawing lake that he's hiding next to. And the ugly duckling, now having fully grown and matured, unable to endure a life of solitude and hardship anymore, decides to throw himself at the flock of swans, deciding that it's better to be taunted and even killed by such beautiful birds than to live in such ugliness and misery and loneliness. But as he swims out, he's shocked when the swans welcome and accept him, only to realize by looking at the reflection in the water, that he has grown into one of them. And the flock takes to the air, and now the beautiful swan spreads his gorgeous wings and takes flight with his family. That's 1843. And it's the same story. I just want someone. It was a decade ago when Marla Paul wrote her now popular column in the Chicago Tribune about how she related with the ugly duckling, and the newspaper reports just this volcano of reaction from men and women, boys and girls, young and old, paupers and professionals, melancholies and sanguines. People saying, "You too? You relate to the ugly duckling?" Just wanting to be found. So as Christians, we take our cue from a Broadway musical this morning. Say, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is this the reality that we live in, where we can smile pretty, but inside we just want to belong? We want to be found. Paupers or professional, boys or girls, sanguines or melancholies, we're in this thing together. Open your Bibles. Grab your Bibles. This sermon series through January, through December and into the first week of January, we're going to take narratives of being found, narratives from the Bible of being found, and look to see what lessons can be drawn from these narratives. So I said Matthew, John chapter 5, the fourth gospel in your New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and then John. You know, John is the unique gospel of the four. So he includes stories that the others, and points and teachings of Jesus that the other three don't. The other three are known as the synoptic gospels. That is, there's some agreement, there's some journey together. But John kind of just sticks out and says, boop, I'm going to talk about other stuff you guys didn't cover. And this is one of those stories, John chapter 5. Starting right in verse 1. That's how the chapter opens. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. We don't exactly know what feast this was. Some Bible scholars say the Passover. Some Bible scholars say, no, it was probably the Feast of the Trumpets, which celebrates creation and judgment. Others say the Passover, which celebrates recreation, as it were, redemption. Either way, it obviously, for John, he just wanted us to know that Jesus was headed there for a feast. There was another reason he was going. He was headed to Jerusalem. He had a reason to be there. But really did he have a reason to be there? Let's find out. Now there, in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, so this is where the sheep were ushered in for the services. By the sheep gate, a pool, which is called in Hebrew Bethesda. Okay, now just hang that on a hook in your mind. Anytime a Bible writer goes back, or as it were, moves into another language, just kind of trip over it. It's their literary device to just say, hey, wait a minute. So it's always worth a second look when they switch languages or say, hey, by the way, the name of this in another language. There's usually a reason. It had 5 porches, all right, 5 porches. Now, what happened under these porches is that there lay a great multitude, verse 3, of sick people, blind, lame, paralyzed, waiting for the moving of the water. Now, the idea was, at least the popular kind of conversation was that an angel came down. I don't know any commentary that says, yeah, in fact, we're pretty sure it was an angel. Most of them point out, it was probably tied into some springs. Something happened. Others say nothing ever happened. It's only that these people just imagined something, and it was kind of this hoax. Either way, the story is that an angel would come down at a certain time into the pool and stirred up the water. Then whoever stepped in first after the stirring of the water was made well of whatever disease he had. All right? Now, a certain time doesn't allude to once a year. It's saying there was just times that it happened. So this wasn't just maybe a once a year, but there was times that there was some movement in the water. Now, a certain man who had an infirmity 38 years. 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had already been in that condition a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" Verse 7, the sick man answers, Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred, but while I am coming, another steps down before me. Jesus, still looking at him, said to him, Rise, take up your bed and walk. And immediately the man was made well, took up his bed and walked, and that day was the Sabbath. Hey, it's a good story. It happened on the Sabbath. We're talking about it on the Sabbath. Jesus comes back to Jerusalem. The story here, he comes back for a feast. Not sure which one, but he comes back for a feast. He comes walking in to this pool area where there are just multitudes of sick. I mean, it is just an asylum for those who had no other recourse. Just go to the pool of Bethesda. And here this man had been dealing with an infirmity for 38 years. We don't know that he'd been there at the pool for 38 years. Understandably, he had probably started with doctors or other options. But at some point, he had been brought and dropped off, left at the pool. So now he struggles through the heat of the day and the chilliness of the night. But day after day and year after year, he lingers waiting for some movement, waiting for an opportunity. And you've got to guess that he's been there long enough that he knows what would be the fastest way for him to get into the water. So he's positioned himself the best he can. 38 years, the Bible points out, John says he's been there 38 years. He points it out as if it's some sort of common knowledge. And so commentators have agreed, hey, it appears that this man was kind of well known. You know the guy that hangs out at a certain store asking for money. You just see him there often. Apparently, he had been seen enough. It was common knowledge. A certain man. Everybody knew. Hey, you know the man that's been there a long time? Yeah. Well, we know. Do you remember his name? No, don't know. I just know he's been there. He always wears that red knitted hat. Yeah. Okay, it's him. When Jesus sees him, it's a certain man, 38 years. Everybody knows his story. Everybody knows his story. And his story is that he's been there a long time. Jesus says, hey, do you want to be made well? Do you want to be fixed? The sick man answers, Sir, I have no man to put me in the pool. Apparently, others had people that would come and assist them to get them in the pool. But this man says, I have ran out of options. No one will help me anymore. My friends are gone. I have no one. Commentators, I had never thought this, but commentators point out that the way this conversation unravels, it appears as if this man has ran his friends off. He's just kind of a hard to get along with guy. His anxiety, his issue, whatever he's dealing with, whatever the situation is, his personality, his negative, I don't know, but it says, look, I have no one anymore. Everybody else has someone, but nobody's willing to help me. I've driven everyone off. And commentators conclude that he has no one to blame for this situation except himself. So he's tucked into a difficult situation. 38 long years, he's suffering alone, completely and utterly alone, and it may just be his fault even. He may just not be fun to be around. People have tried to help him, and he keeps correcting them, keeps telling them how to do something, just whatever it is, people have one by one said, hey, you know what? I've got other things to do. I've got other people I'm going to hang out with. Now he's 38 years in this ailment, and no one is there for him. Some of the most tragic, gut-wrenching words, Sir, I have no man. Sociologists say to us that, listen, even the most lonely among us we'll actually find that we have 2 or 3 people that are on our inner circle. Max, by the way, didn't know this, max, you have about 150 people that you can actually engage with in your life. They say it doesn't matter if you have 3,000 friends on Facebook. There's 150 people that will rotate. And if you rotate one person in, inevitably one person is going to be rotated out. I never knew your address book could get filled. Sorry, I got my friend quota. They say it goes in circles, 2 or 3 on your inner circle, 5 to 7 on your next circle, and then larger and larger till you have 150 within your circles. But this man says, I've ran 150 people off. I have no one. Sir, I have no man. And I wonder if that's the cry of any one of our hearts. Jesus, I've got no one. I've got no one. Jesus asks him, so he's there. He's not only been there a long time, people seem to know about him. He's kind of created himself a little bit of a story. People know, hey, you know that man that's been there a long? Yeah, we know that man. Not only that, he seems to have ran off his other friends, ran off anybody that wants to or cares to try to help him. And now Jesus says, hey, do you want to be made well? Jesus asks him, do you want to be made well? What, sir, I have no one. And I was struck with the fact that he doesn't even know how to pray right. Here, Jesus is bending over him. Sir, he responds, I have no one to help me. He doesn't even say the right words. It seems like if he really, if he had a clue about life, he would have said yes, with the off chance that this man bending over me knows something or is willing to stay and help me. But in fact, he admits, I have ran off everyone I'm hard to get along with. No, come on, man, just cover your tracks and fake it till you make it. Oh, I would love to, sir. I would love to get better. Matter of fact, do you have an idea? He doesn't even fake it. I got no one. I got no options. If he were to say, if I had the opportunity, I'd sit down with him. I'd say, listen, you've been dealing with this a very long time. Let me give you some clues on how to pray. All right? Acts. A-C-T-S. You want to start with adoration. You want to start with confession. Then you want to move to thanksgiving. And then your supplication at the end. Let's rehearse this thing. I'd get him ready so that God could do something for him because his prayer is miserable. And Jesus responded to his miserable prayer in verse 8. Rise, take up your bed and walk. There's not a hint of faith. There's blind Bartimaeus. I love blind Bartimaeus' story because blind Bartimaeus actually exerts some faith when people tell him to be quiet. He can't see Jesus. He knows though Jesus is out there somewhere. The Bible says he cries out much the more, Jesus, have mercy on me. This man doesn't even give a whisper of faith. He doesn't deserve a prayer to be answered. Rise, take up your bed and walk. And verse 9, and immediately. Now, immediately is placed in contrast with the time that he's been there, 38 long years, and immediately means that God doesn't require him to do any jumping through hoops. Hey, show me that you're going to appreciate this. Show me that you know what to do once I do this for you. No, immediately was, I not going to make you pay. You don't have to pay. You don't deserve it. It's here. If Jesus had done some sort of, well, listen, you change a few things, and I'll be back. It wouldn't be what it was. Immediately, he was made well. Immediately. In contrast to this 38, there was no probation. But it had to be immediately. For this story to make any sense, it had to be immediately. Because Jesus is walking by the sheep gate into the pool of Bethesda. And John, the disciple, says, by the way, in the Hebrew, that pool is called Bethesda. And we say, okay, Bethesda it is. Except Bethesda wasn't just Bethesda. Bethesda in the Hebrew meant house of mercy. And so it was that the one that was born in Bethlehem, the house of bread, comes strolling through the house of mercy and says, I got something for you. You won't deserve it. You got it, though. And he extends to a man 38 years, friendless, hopeless, and helpless, mercy. He doesn't deserve it. But if he deserved it, if he had done anything to deserve, if he had prayed right, it wouldn't have been mercy. Back in the day, that's how we refer to the 90s. When I was in academy and into college, there were some terms that I'm sure they did well to go away. We called it someone's marketability. That meant as a single person, the more marketability you had, the more marketable you were, the more reason someone had to consider you as an option. So we would say something like this: yeah, I'm going to go get my master's. I mean, that makes me more marketable, doesn't it? I mean, that's like marketability right there. Yeah, if you have a master's degree, sure, yeah. I'm going to go on this mission trip. I'm going to take that class because that makes me more marketable, right? Don't pretend you've never thought that, even if you don't use the word. I'm saying the word has gone away, not the idea. It's our eligibility. Come on, it makes me eligible. There was nothing eligible or marketable about this man. He had ran off everyone. He was friendless. He was hopeless. He had been there 38 years. He was helpless. His infirmity had kept him in the back of the line. No matter how well he planned his day, he couldn't get to the front. Hopeless, helpless, and friendless. He had 0 on the marketability score. But he was in the house of mercy. It was in 1995, at the risk of wearing you out from song lyrics, let me just bring up another one. 1995, when the musical artists Phillips, Craig, and Dean came out with their Mercy Came Running. Let me read the lyrics for you on that one. Once there was a broken heart, way too human from the start. And all the years left it torn apart, hopeless and afraid. Walls I never meant to build left this prisoner unfulfilled. This is the story of the man there. Freedom called, but even still it seemed so far away. I was bound by chains from the wages of my own sin, just when I felt like giving in. And then the chorus breaks out. Like a prisoner set free, past all my failures to the point of my need, when the sin that I carried was all I could see, and when I could not reach mercy, mercy came running to me. Hallelujah. Undeserved. Mercy past all my failures to the point of my need, when the sin that I carried was all I could see. Mercy came running to me. Unbeknownst to this man, the figure bent over him was the very fountain of mercy, and he was in the house of mercy. God says, immediately. But that Bethesda, that house of mercy, that's the Christian story. That's the Christian faith. That's our legacy. Abraham Joshua Heschel, the Jewish scholar, in his magnum opus, God in Search of Man, he titled it. Let me read you these lines. God is pursuing man. It is as if God were unwilling to be alone. God, We've read about pursuing God. We've always thought this, I need to search for God. I'm in search of God. But no, Heschel says, God is pursuing man. It is as if God were unwilling to be alone and he had chosen man to serve him. Keep reading. Our seeking him is not only man's, but also his concern, and must not be considered an exclusively human affair. Keep reading. All of human history, as described in the Bible, may be summarized in one phrase: God is in search of you. Faith in God is only a response to God's question, where are you? I want to find you. I'm reading through my late night reading. Just before I go to bed, I'm reading through A.Z. Tozer's book, The Pursuit of God. I stumbled across this line this week. Christian theology teaches the doctrine of prevenient grace. What that means, briefly stated, is this, that before a man can seek God, God must first have sought. Does it say south? Sought the man. We pursue God because and only because he has first put an urge within us that spurs us to the pursuit. The feeling that you get, I need God, is fact positive that there is a God that's pursuing you. It's the statement. You say, well, why don't I feel it the other way? No, this is the response. I am loving someone because they are loving me. That's the theology of the Christian church. That's our doctrine. God seeks me way before I ever seek him. But my urge to seek God is a response, is proof positive that he has in fact already searched for me. Read a story about this God. Dag Hammarskjöld. Put his picture on the screen for you. Secretary General of the United Nations from 1953 to 1961. A few years ago, he was a Swedish Christian. He wrote the celebrated collection of spiritual meditations called Markings. Many regard him as the greatest diplomat in the 20th century, and without a doubt, the greatest Secretary General in the history of the United Nations. He died a tragic, mysterious death almost, in a plane crash in the Congo in 1961. He was awarded after his death the Nobel Peace Prize because of his work. But it's the circumstances that surround his death that just the mystery. You go online and there are as many suggestions, theories on what happened to his plane. Some claim that it was shot down, exploded, a bomb exploded, this, that, and the other. But a conclusion has been that he was working at this time, the strife-torn Congo, on a peace mission back in 1961. And sometime in the night between September 17 and September 18, so he's flying over in the night, the plane in which the Secretary General was traveling in crashed. It went down in Zambia, a fiery explosion. The cause of the accident, we've got to figure this out. It remained a mystery. It still, in many people's minds, is a mystery. But some have concluded that one little piece of information has settled it in their minds. Some investigators, while we're going through the remains, discovered a clue. Someone noticed that in the cockpit, in the wreckage, there was an open map to Ndolo, which is the name of the airport in the Congo. Kinshasa is where the airport is. But on that night, the night between September 17 and 18, on that fateful night when the airplane went down, while the pilots were looking at a map for Ndolo, which was fine, except their destination that night was Ndola, an airport in Zambia. So they're looking at a map for Ndolo, and they're flying to Ndola, and the pilot thought he had more room, more space than he had, and ran the plane full speed into the ground. The difference of one letter, Ndolo, Ndola. The difference of one letter meant life or death for those that were on the plane, including the Secretary General of the UN. The author that tells the story says there's another line that can mean life or death. And the question is about God. There's a line about God that just a couple of letters apart can mean life or death. Let me put it on the screen for you. This is what I would ask you to answer in your own heart today while you're sitting here. God is a friend, or God is afraid. Very close. God is a friend, or God is afraid. And notice the unique touch here. This is not, are you afraid of God? But do you feel God is afraid of you? Like he's tired of your shenanigans? He's done with you? He's just afraid? He doesn't want anything to do with you? Is God a friend? Or is God afraid? The opposite could be true. Are you afraid of God? Because Heschel and Tozer are both right. The God that the Christians believe in is a God that has come searching for us way before we ever went searching for him. Is God a friend? Or is God afraid? Do you have too many issues? Have you driven off everyone? Have you become this alone in a world of connectivity? Are you saying, I got no one? It's not just Tozer and it's not just Heschel. It's John who walked with Jesus himself. Listen to what he says. It was read for us, Jessica, earlier, 1 John chapter 4. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves torment. But he who fears has not been made perfect in love. Verse 19, we love him because he first loved us. While you're at the pool of Bethesda, unbeknownst to you, beyond the curtain of the supernatural, when you can't see anybody on your side, there is one that is running for you. The very creator of mercy, the very origin of mercy, born in the house of bread. He's got something for us. Has come to our house of mercy. And while we've been there alone, 2 years, 10 years, 30 years, John says he loved us first before we ever knew it. That's the Christmas story. That's the Christmas story. Down in a lowly manger, the humble Christ was born, and God sent us salvation. That's him loving us. That blessed Christmas morn. God loved us before we ever loved him. That salvation, God sent us his salvation. That's the story of us being found. That's the story of the cry of our hearts. I need to be found. I've been disconnected. I've been alone. I'm sobbing uncontrollably. I'm crying like a baby in the darkness of my own night. I'm a professional out there. I smile at church. My wife, my family think I'm all together, but in the darkness of the night, my heart of hearts, I'm broken and alone. I need to be found. That's the Christian faith, and that's the Christmas story. We will be found. Whatever your brokenness, your friendless, hopeless, helpless self, mercy is coming running. We will be found. Praying about this, I said, God, it seems like with an invitation like this, the fact that you have loved us before we have loved you, we should do some sort of appeal and have people come to the front and say, I want to be found. But then I reread the story of John chapter 5 and found out that man did not, in fact, respond. He was helpless, hopeless, and friendless, and he laid there not even knowing how to pray right. And I wondered if there's someone here that doesn't even have the enough to get to the front. So we're not going to come to the front. But we are going to take our Connect cards or our phones out, and I'm going to put the Connect number on the screen for you. If you would just say, look, that's me. I'm alone. I'm afraid of God. I feel God's afraid of me. I need to be found. Whatever it is for you, you take that Connect card. Give us your name. Take that Connect number, 970-541-9919. You text that number and say, I need to be found. I'm here. I need mercy. I don't know how to pray. I don't know how to ask. I don't know. I just don't know anything. This church, our pastors, our elders, our leaders, we want to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And maybe you are a pastor, maybe you are a leader, maybe you are an elder. Enough of it. Enough of the smiley face. Let's be real. I'm helpless, hopeless, and friendless. Sir, I have no man. I don't care if you're a pastor or an elder, Sabbath school teacher, music leader. Let's let mercy come running. So if you just take that Connect card or Connect number, whatever is more convenient for you. The Connect card can go on the offering plates. The Connect number, just zip it off. Just hit the send. We'll come reaching. We'll come looking for you. This church, the church was God's idea of having a body on planet Earth. So that's what we're here for. But let's sing that declaration. This is why it's good news. This is why we want to go tell it on the mountain. Why? Because we have someone looking for us. That's the Christmas story. We have someone from Bethlehem, the house of bread, that is willing to come to our house of mercy. So let's sing about it.
Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born. While shepherds left there watching, voice out.
verse again.
Go tell it on the mountain, over the hills and everywhere. Go tell it on the mountain that Jesus Christ is born.
And the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.
Just one more word. We're glad you've joined us today. You're always welcome to join us here in worship. But we want to be available to you. If you have a prayer request, we have a prayer team that are eager to be praying for you. If you want to connect with a pastor, ask a question. If you feel you'd like to help support these teachings being online, I want to invite you to contact the number on the screen, 970-667-7403, or the website. We'll put that on the screen for you. You go there, you can contact us, leave a prayer request, connect with us. We'd be honored to hear from you and how we can help you in your spiritual journey. But until next time, know that Jesus is searching for you.